Well, good morning. It is a good morning. There's a lot of day left, so I know that the day will unfold as will the next several days all across Indiana in different ways. It's probably fitting that we have a weather update on Groundhog Day. But we're fortunate to date to have avoided this past year a lot of the severe weather patterns and the destruction that those left in their wakes. We are not just prepared for the next coming days and the weather ahead, but we are over-prepared, and we would suggest everyone doing the same. We'll give you an update from multiple agencies today, state agencies today, but just wanted to underscore that this is a multifaceted, multi-agency effort that is going to rely on citizens when it comes right down to it as well to complement our efforts. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of common sense things that we can all do over the course of today, whether or not you're in southern Indiana and you're dealing with ice, or central Indiana with ice and snow, or northern Indiana with a lot of snow and ice. We're going to pay attention to the minute-by-minute changes that the weather brings all throughout the state, whether it's 2 inches or 18 inches of snow, but there's a lot of common sense things that we can do. Number one is we would ask for your patience and your cooperation if you need to be out on the road over the next day, 2 days, 3 days, even into the weekend as the snow that's not plowed starts to really get packed in. Want to make sure you're not, when you're out, if you have to be out, that you're not tailgating. We've got a lot of people out on the roads right now that are trying to make it safe for you. And so please don't tailgate. I think, Superintendent Carter, you got a rule that whoever has the most lug nuts usually wins. And so when you've got these plows out there doing their job, they're risking their safety too so that you can remain safe. So give them the proper space. And again, that just goes back to that patience. If you see a power line down, again, we mentioned there's going to be ice and snow. If you see a power line down or trees down, don't go near the power line. Obviously, again, common sense. Get it reported. If you're around a potential fire hazard, call 911. Get that reported in as fast as you can. Don't bring generators inside if you're hunkered down and you're waiting out the storm. Don't bring those generators inside. Make sure they're outside, or those can compound our immediate problems. Would also say don't, again, back to the patients, don't overexert yourself when you're shoveling out. Space it out, time it out, make sure that you don't overdo it and end up in the hospital as well. Please check in on your neighbors, especially those that are shut in, and especially if we do have power outages throughout the state of Indiana. A lot of times folks can be forgotten, and we don't want that to happen. So we'll all be on standby as well as your local governments, but we want to make sure that neighbor by neighbor is checking in on one another. If you slide off the road, I'm sure the superintendent will elaborate on this. Don't get out and wander around. Don't try to solve your problem immediately. Call in. There will be a first responder who will show up, and we are pre-positioned. You'll hear from our Homeland Security Director, you'll hear from our superintendent, and you'll hear from our commissioner of the Indiana Department of Transportation here in just a few seconds. I would also ask you to pay special and close attention to your local media outlets. They're going to have the latest up-to-date information on what is occurring in your community. So pay attention to those updates, especially over the next 2, 3, 4 days, again, into the weekend as this severe weather passes through our state and our response efforts. And then lastly, I would just suggest, if you're so inclined, you can put on your cell phone, NDOT has rolled out in the last about month and a half an app that you can check on. You've got about 900 trucks out right now. You've got just under 1,700 employees pulling 12-hour shifts. You can see what those drivers are seeing, and you can see the progress that's being made. All this just to say that In my 5 years here, this is the first truly statewide weather event that has prompted us to have a response effort statewide. And it will require expertise in different areas at different times, and we just ask for your cooperation. With that, I will turn it over to our Commissioner of Transportation, Joe McGinnis.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. As he mentioned, the storm will affect all regions of the state over the next likely 2 to 3 days. To tackle the storm, NDOT has 215,000 tons of salt and 1.5 million gallons of brine on hand to battle this storm. NDOT is a full call-out with nearly 1,000 trucks treating and plowing the highways. They began early this morning in northern Indiana and will continue until the state highway network is clear and safe. More than 1,500 NDOT employees will be on hand for the full call, and they will work in 12-hour shifts and rotating every one of those 12 hours. The storm will be tricky for us for a number of reasons. As we can look at here in Indianapolis today, right now it is raining. So the changeover across the state from rain to snow will occur, and that changeover will continue to move south throughout the day today. The National Weather Service predicts the changeover will occur along the Noblesville-Terre Haute line after 1 p.m., and will start along the I-70 line around 5 p.m. So it's p.m. commuters, this evening commuters, will need to take extra care on their way home. Southern Indiana will see the most prolonged period of rain and will likely see the most ice. The change along the Ohio River will not likely happen until early Thursday morning. Because of the rain before the snow, in most cases, if not all cases, NDOT will not be able to pre-treat the roads in the most effective way. Because of this, highways, they will develop slick spots, and the snow will stick to the highways. Road conditions across the state will be challenging as the storm moves through. NDOT's goal is to keep highways passable through the storm, but motorists that must travel should expect to encounter snow and ice-covered roads. Blowing and drifting and whiteout conditions will exist. NDOT urges drivers to stay off the roads starting this afternoon through the storm to give our crews room to work and make the roads safe. If you do have to travel, please slow down, check your route beforehand, and give yourself plenty of time to travel. Please watch out for our big yellow trucks. They are doing their job as safely and as effectively as they possibly can, and they want to go home safely at the end of the day, just like the rest of us. That also goes for our county crews and our local cities and towns. They may not have the big yellow trucks, but their crews also are just out trying to get the job done and clear the highways and their main streets through their communities. The latest models show snow coverage across the entire state, with northern and parts of north central Indiana receiving upwards of 15 inches of snow. NDOT is in constant communication with the National Weather Service and their locations across the state. They are constantly updating the forecast and providing us with the latest models. I encourage you to monitor real-time travel conditions at trafficwise.org. Again, that is trafficwise.org. That is a website controlled and updated by NDOT folks. And as the governor mentioned, our NDOT mobile app. It is free, Android, iOS, app stores. You can go on, download the NDOT mobile app, click on the travel information tab, and it'll pull up a touchscreen of the entire state. If you see the little blue icon that looks like a snowplow, that is one of the cameras in our dash cameras on one of our plows. It is a still photo from that dash cam, but you can see the real-time road conditions within the last 2 or 3 minutes, what that truck is seeing out there on the roads. So again, I encourage you to please travel safely, give our trucks and the local trucks plenty of space, and if you don't have to drive, please don't. The more you drive on this snow and this ice, the more it packs down and the much more difficult procedure it is for us over the next few days. Thank you.
Good morning. The state, Indiana Department of Homeland Security has been working locally with EMA directors throughout the state over the course of this week and local officials to make sure that everybody has been preparing for this storm as forecasts have begun to take shape. Reminding EMAs that the resources of the state, contacts, procedures, and that our top priority at the state is making sure that they can get the help that they have or that they need when they need it. EMAs understand state capabilities and they're trained to respond. We have regional liaisons within the Department of Homeland Security who work almost daily with local public safety officials, first responders, and emergency management personnel in all 92 counties of the state. And they've been proactively discussing needs and potential impacts with those first responders associated with the response to this storm. They've been working locally with NGOs such as the Red Cross and other sheltering organizations to make sure that shelters and those types of resources are available to folks who are in need once the storm impacts their area. As far as the State Department of Homeland Security goes, the State Emergency Operations Center is housed within our agency. They've been operating on an increased activity level, preparing for the storm over the last few days, and will be monitoring the storm over the 24-hour shifts over the next 72 hours and beyond if necessary. We have a meteorologist on staff. We have 24-hour watch desks that are coordinating efforts not just with local first responders, but state agencies to coordinate resources as they're needed in different parts of the state. And we're in constant contact with our state partners, whether it be NDOT, ISP, the National Guard, et cetera. We're constantly sharing information through WebEOC, which is a program we utilize to maintain contact with local first responders and emergency management personnel. And we utilize those communications to make sure that all state agencies are updated with the needs locally as well. We're also monitoring statewide weather along with NDOT and our other state partners. And we're receiving updates through the National Weather Service, just like all of your local news outlets are doing. For the simple fact that the different parts of the state are going to be impacted differently, it's really, really important, as the governor and Commissioner McGinnis actually just mentioned, that people maintain awareness of how the storm is impacting their local area because of the differences, whether it be snow, a mix of ice and snow, or just heavy ice that's impacting their area. We've also had calls with our federal partners at FEMA. Governor had a call with Administrator Criswell from FEMA last night. And Region 5 administrator, acting administrator in Chicago, has had constant contact with me and my staff at the State Department of Homeland Security. I'd also like to point out that we're working directly with our National Guard teams here in the state to proactively stand up highway assistance teams throughout the state, especially on the major roadways. Those teams, we've got 60 teams that have been activated through the National Guard on state active duty, and they will be deployed and patrolling those roadways starting today and through the weekend to assist stranded motorists in the event that that's a need in any one given area. We have 54 of those teams are going to be working specifically to do those patrols or to perform those patrols, with an additional 6 teams on standby in case there's a specific need in a specific area of the state where there has been an extreme impact from the storm. That total is 240 National Guard soldiers, and again, comprising of 60 teams that will be working throughout the state. I would also urge folks to go to the Indiana Department of Homeland Security website. We actually have a link on our homepage which will connect folks with the countywide travel advisory maps. It's incredibly important that when the storm hits and there are extreme conditions within particular counties, that folks stay off the roads in order for the NDOT teams and the local municipal or county teams that are clearing the roadways to be allowed to get out there and clear those roadways unimpeded. So please, please, please pay attention to that countywide travel advisory map. That can be located at www.in.gov/DHS. It's on our homepage, the link is, along with a winter storm safety tip information and checklist for folks to be able to look at how do they plan to remain safe in the event that conditions become too extreme in their area. I would also reiterate something that the governor said, please check on your neighbors and make sure that if you do have health conditions and you're removing snow from your property, please take it easy and make sure that you're not overexerting yourself. In the northern part of the state, already today, we've got reports that the snow up there is extremely heavy and wet, and so that comes with additional issues associated with snow removal. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Carter.
Thank you, Steve. Well, good morning, everyone. I first would like to acknowledge you. The way you message this information is so very important to us as we proceed ahead. That partnership matters so very much. 911 calls. Please understand that we too have a capacity that I worry about pretty routinely, but I really worry about it today. And the things that I worry about, I don't want you to concern yourself with, but we have to get to you if you call for our help. And I can assure you that we'll do everything within our power to do that. But remember, we do have that capacity. So it's something I think to keep in mind. Our vehicles, whether it be a state trooper in rural Indiana or in an urban area, a local official, a county deputy, we have limitations for the vehicles that we drive. And if we get 12 to 14 inches of snow, we're going to have a very difficult time getting to you and likely will not be able to. And I hate saying that to you, but I think it's important that we talk about the reality of what this could mean. So please pay attention to that. And whether we get 12, 14, 16 inches of snow or not, it's going to get really cold, and the winds are going to pick up, and sometimes blowing snow is worse than anything. So please keep that in mind as you make the decision about getting out or staying home. Governor Holcomb mentioned this a little bit just a few minutes ago, but if you get stranded, please, please, please do not get out of your vehicle and try and walk, especially if you can't see where you're going. And I don't mean just being able to see 15 or 20 feet. I mean to see your destination where you would be properly protected. That's a huge concern for me, especially as we get out into the rural areas of major thoroughfares, I-65, US 31, I-69, and the like. It seems the north and south roads are always the worst when it comes to blowing snow. Please keep that in the back of your mind. If you stop to help somebody, remember you've also got to protect yourself. Don't just stop your car where you see a problem. Remember that there's going to be people coming up behind you just like you were, and you've got to also protect yourself. So please start thinking about what that might look like. Every single time we have an event like this, and this is certainly a bit unusual, but we have those drivers out there with big four-wheel drive vehicles, and they think they can go anywhere. The reality is they can't. They can't. So please be conscious of that. The bigger vehicle is going to win almost every single time, but that doesn't mean that you can control a vehicle on ice, whether it's four-wheel drive or not. So I hope that people are starting to consider that, and I think that they are. This is going to be going on through the weekend, so we're all very, very focused on today and the next 36 hours or so before the storm leaves our eastern border. But that doesn't mean it's going to end for us. It's probably going to mean we just get started trying to get to folks that are going to be needing help. So please be conscious of that. And every one of us have talked about taking care of those that can't take care of themselves. And remember, we'll do anything to get to you, but we got to be able to. We've got to be able to. And right now, that is a huge concern for me, whether that be with medicine, food, gas, LP, whatever it might be. So please take care of one another. And as out of balance as we are, this is a really good opportunity for us to just take care of one another and not pay attention to all the noise going on around us. So with that said, I'll turn this back over to Governor Holcomb.
Thank you, Superintendent. So I hope everyone understands that whatever this severe weather throws at us, we're going to meet and exceed that with all the manpower and resources and assets that we have. They're already pre-positioned all over the state, from the Ohio River to Lake Michigan. But having said that, again, this has got to be a partnership with everyone who is out and about, even if you have to be out on the road. With that, we'll happy to answer any questions that you might have. Yes, sir.
You talked a little bit about the spread in conditions from Lake Michigan down to the Ohio River. Tell us a little bit more about how that affects how you allocate resources, how you figure out how you respond in conditions in Gary versus Indianapolis.
Yeah. Joe, you want to talk about what has been positioned right now and then how that will shift?
Yeah, so the process that we're in right now, as I was looking at our cameras in our office before I walked over here this morning, is the snow is definitely flying, particularly up around I-80, 94, the Borman, the Chicagoland area. And so up there, it's full snowplow, salt dropping call out. The further south you go, the more it's just, right now, it's just rain. And so snow we can move, ice we cannot. We will do as much as we possibly can with that ice, with the salt, but the pre-treating, as I mentioned earlier, becomes extremely difficult when it's raining, because as soon as we drop the brine down on the road, the rain washes it away. So the decision was made, that's why there's no point in pre-treating. The rain's just going to wash us away. And so if we get an opportunity, we get a window between the rain and the freezing rain, we'll get out and lay down as much of that brine as we possibly can in that short window, particularly on the main thoroughfares, the interstates in particular. But from Lake Michigan down to the Ohio River, we're going to see completely different types of winter storm. We're going to see the snow we're seeing today, and we're going to see ice down south. And so what that means for our folks is going to be more salt down south as opposed to having the blades down on the ground, and more blades on the ground up north and less salt.
Governor, were there talks at all about declaring a state of emergency like neighboring states already have ahead of the storm?
Yeah, there were discussions, but I think we have it covered. I've mentioned to these three folks and to General Lyles, whatever you need, you're going to get. And as I said, whatever the storm brings to us, we have to be nimble, and we can do that right now under the condition that we're in. Not as of right now. We've sent word out to every state agency because this is affecting different parts of the state differently. We, again, have to be nimble as a state government as well. But no, BMV workers, as an example, up in Mishawaka are working today, even as snow falls. But we've said we're going to monitor this minute by minute. The Emergency Operations Center is up and running, has been since early this morning. We've been doing calls every morning and every night for the last few days, monitoring the weather patterns. And so we'll be in contact with our agencies and the citizens that they serve over the next few days as well.
Governor, some businesses are thinking about closing or staying open.
Yeah.
What would your recommendation be to those business owners?
Make the safest decision that you can. And I know it's a sacrifice maybe to the bottom line and the margin, but the alternative could be more catastrophic. And so safety first. We've always been about this here in the state of Indiana, but over the last couple of years, we've gotten pretty good at teamwork and responding to the conditions on the ground day by day, week by week. And over the next 3 or 4 days, this is going to be a bumpy patch. This was a pattern from New Mexico to Maine, and we're right smack almost in the middle of it. And so we need to be as precautious as every state that's been in its path, and we are. And so I would just recommend make the safe call. That doesn't mean shut down right now if the weather conditions allow you to remain open, but put the safety of yourself and your customers first.
You talked before about staffing levels for salt and plow trucks. How does that compare to previous storms?
Yeah, so as the governor mentioned in the beginning, this is, in my 5+ years with him at the Department of Transportation, this is really the first one I can remember as being a full statewide event. And so typically when we have lake effect snow, many of our folks up there, it's kind of a robotic response anymore because they're used to getting those lake effect conditions in Northwest Indiana. In the further south you go, they don't respond like as often as we do in northern Indiana. And so deploying our resources across all 92 counties has been important. Typically, if we have an event north of Indianapolis and they're kind of getting inundated, we will shift employees and equipment from, say, our Seymour district up north to assist. In this situation, we won't be doing that. Those folks will be staying at their home base, operating with the trucks that they've always operated with on a daily basis, and continue to fight until, as I mentioned earlier, until all the state network is clear and safe.
Do you expect that distribution to change at all as the storm develops?
I don't anticipate that at all. I think that'll be the 1,500 plus people from NDOT that will be engaged on this. Will continue to rotate with about 1,000 trucks. Obviously, we have more people than we have trucks, and that's a good thing. So we can rotate these folks in and out. But I don't anticipate moving people from one side of the state to the other or redeploying assets anywhere else.
How much of a public safety concern is tonight's Pacers game?
Same answer, safety first, right? And I would pay very close attention to the local government here. And I think I've read the mayor said, you know, get out if you have to, and if it's safe.
Would someone be able to just clarify a little bit about the travel advisories? Different counties are going to different travel advisories at different times. People get confused. And just provide some clarity with that. Not everybody works in the same county they live in.
Sure, that's a really great question. So as it stands right now, or about 9:30 this morning, we had about, I believe, 10 counties in orange status, which is a watch condition, which basically means that conditions are threatening to the safety of the public. And then during a watch, local travel advisory, only essential travel, such as to and from work or in emergency situations, is recommended. An emergency action plan should be implemented by businesses, schools, government agencies, and other organizations. So that's plain on the map that I alluded to earlier that's on the IDHS website. The yellow level is the advisory level, which is the lowest level of local travel advisory, and it means that routine travel or activities may be restricted in areas because of a hazardous situation, and individuals should use caution or avoid those areas. As it stands right now, there are no counties, unless that's changed in the last few minutes, to the warning level or the red level, which is the highest level of local travel advisory, and that means that travel may be restricted to emergency management workers only. And during a warning local travel advisory, individuals are directed to refrain from all travel, comply with necessary emergency measures, cooperate with the public officials and disaster services forces in executing emergency operations plans, and to obey and comply with the lawful directions of properly identified officers. So the key there, and I think we've alluded to this over and over again, is that different counties are experiencing different levels of risk right now. And so it's really, really important for folks on the local level to pay attention to those conditions that are affecting them locally, and to keep an eye on what travel advisories have been enacted in their own counties, because they could be impacted differently. And if I live in one county and I work in another county, you should pay attention to both counties' travel advisories, because you'll be traveling through each of those counties, say if you're going to work. And so those advisories will impact you as you're traveling on those roadways in either county.
Which goes back to your question. Our state employees will be paying attention to those county outcomes as well, whether it's orange or red, the employees that work for the state.
Are there any extra precautions happening for our homeless shelters? Anything different as a result of the storm?
With our local homeless shelters, yeah, we'll be absolutely partnering with and as we always do, as we always have, whether it be in urban, rural, or suburban areas. They're each of critically important. Yes, sir.
One thing that I forgot to mention, and it's really, really important. If your vehicle gets abandoned, understand that we're going to remove it. Don't be mad at us. But we can't leave it where it is. And the thing that always comes back to my mind is I-65 north of Lafayette, where it's just really rural up there in the big flat fields. And that whole area generally is pretty problematic for us. So if you leave your vehicle and you get somebody to take you home or get you off the interstate or off a main road, that's great. But when we find it, we're going to remove it, because we've got to open it up for NDOT to come through and clear the snow, or for the local entities to come through and clear the snow. So I'm sorry, Governor, to interrupt you, but I wanted to make sure and hit that point.
I have one unrelated question about economic development, if I may ask.
Sure.
Are you concerned about the number of large economic development projects, such as
Yeah, I don't just want to compete, I want to win. And we're a very competitive state. Let's just think about where we are. We're the #1 manufacturing state per capita in the country. We want to remain, in a decade from now, the #1 advanced manufacturing state in the country. And so you have to evolve. They have to catch us. Having said that, our pipeline in Q1 is full, and I expect more good news to come. But probably ought to stay closer to the reason we're here. I want to make sure that folks know that we have the resources to weather this storm. What we really need is cooperation. And with that, stay safe. Thank you all.